Hi, I'm Christine Savchuk, Director of Education and Accreditation at CBB Institute. I'm pleased to have here with me today Tara Singh and Tyler St. John, who recently completed an innovative and thought-provoking research paper sponsored by CBB Institute. Tara and Tyler, thank you for being here. Tara and Tyler, can you share a bit about your motivation or inspiration in undertaking such ambitious research?
I think one of our primary motivations for undertaking this research, and perhaps predominantly at the outset, was to learn more about the topic of crypto assets ourselves.
Secondly, I think we were also motivated to undertake this research because we anticipate in the coming years that this will become an important part of our profession, and we wanted to be a bit ahead of the curve and also help educate our peers as well as ourselves about this new asset class.
And why do you think this research will be interesting to valuation professionals specifically, as well as other professionals?
I think this research will be interesting to both valuation professionals and other individuals in the business community because I think this topic is very new and novel, so everybody's interested in it. But I think people are often quickly deterred from learning more about the subject matter because it's quite dense and full of technical jargon. And I think one of the things that our research paper and presentations have done is make this a little bit more understandable and digestible for both valuation professionals and other professionals.
And Tara, can you tell me a bit more about how you think this research has made the topic more digestible or understandable?
Sure. I think what we've done is we've tried to take some of these very technical concepts like blockchain and crypto assets and really put them into layman's terms so that they're more digestible and understandable for lay people. We've also tried to describe some of the differences between the major types of crypto assets because we felt that that was a useful introduction, again, for people that don't know a lot about the space. And finally, we provide an introduction to some of the valuation methodologies that are currently being advanced in the crypto asset space, which we've gotten great feedback on because people are not really familiar with some of these theories and methodologies. And just to clarify, we aren't advancing our own methodology to value these types of crypto assets, but we are trying to synthesize for the valuation profession some of the methodologies that are currently being undertaken.
And are there any specific insights you can share? For instance, are there any misconceptions maybe that you've discovered?
Yes, I can think of one. We found out pretty quickly that the mainstream public tends to use the word cryptocurrency to refer to anything and everything to do with this industry. But we found out actually through the course of our research that that term is a bit of a misnomer because cryptocurrencies are actually only one small subset of the crypto asset ecosystem.
And the term crypto asset, I confess I've heard it used quite frequently, but I don't exactly know what it means. So can you help clarify that for me?
Definitely. So a crypto asset is any digital asset that relies on blockchain technology. And during the course of our research, we discovered there's a whole ecosystem of digital assets, each with different attributes and use cases. And it's these different attributes and use cases that become important when assessing value.
And can you share a bit about what you personally learned from your research?
Well, one of the interesting findings that came out during the course of our research was that crypto asset valuation approaches that are currently being advanced by valuation thought leaders in the space have a lot of parallels to existing business valuation methodologies. So, for example, the income approach, the market approach, and the cost approach. And because this space is so abstract, we thought that an analogy like the one that we've identified in our research will help with the thought transition to crypto assets.
And given that the crypto asset space is relatively new and constantly and rapidly evolving, I'm assuming that you ran into some roadblocks or challenges when you were compiling your data and performing your research. I'm wondering if you can share a bit about the challenges or roadblocks that you may have run into.
Certainly. I think one of the primary challenges that we ran into is because this space is so quickly evolving, there was often a lack of consistency in terminology and the way things are described in the literature. So we wrestled with a lot of that, and we tried to simplify and synthesize a lot of that information to make the concepts a little bit more easy to understand for our readers.
And despite that challenge, we were very pleased to discover the open source nature of the crypto asset space during the course of our research. A lot of the individuals that we approached, both internationally and within Canada, were very happy to make the time for us during the course of their busy schedule and provide valuable insights, which greatly assisted with our research.
This research project was a significant undertaking, and I'm curious if you can tell us a bit about your sources of information.
Well, we cast a very wide net to begin with. The first phase of our research involved a lot of late nights and weekends, just reading whatever we could get our hands on in the way of research publications, academic papers, institutional publications, and articles. And then the second phase of our research involved reaching out to individuals in the crypto asset space, basically whoever was willing to speak with us, which thankfully turned out to be a lot of people. So we spoke with regulators, technical experts, legal professionals, investment professionals, crypto asset early adopters, and of course, crypto asset valuation thought leaders.
It sounds like an impressive amount of work. Tara, is there anything that you wanted to add?
Well, I think to get a more practical perspective, we also consulted the filings of certain Canadian public companies to understand how and to what extent they were disclosing any crypto asset holdings. Interestingly enough, as we were conducting our research, or during the period of our study, we found that these identified companies held over $100 million in crypto asset holdings, which is just the tip of the iceberg, because if you think about it, that doesn't even consider the holdings of certain private companies or investment funds that might also be invested in these types of assets.
And now that you've completed compiling your data and finished your research, do you feel that your findings will be relevant for the future practices of CBDs and the wider business community?
A lot of important institutions, organizations, and regulators seem to think so. There seems to be continued interest in blockchain technology across a number of industries. And if this is the case, crypto assets will be a very important part of valuation and the CBD practice, as well as to business communities as a whole in the foreseeable future.
You've had the opportunity to present your research and your findings at several conferences. One was the CBD Institute's Congress in Montreal, and the other was an International Valuation Congress in New Zealand, where you presented to a number of valuation professionals from around the world. I know here at the CBD Institute we received extremely positive feedback from people who've attended these conferences, but I was hoping that you could share some of the feedback you've received personally.
Well, thanks for that great feedback. That's nice to hear. We did hear from quite a few attendees at the conference, and even some early readers of our paper, that people have had a bit of an aha moment where some of these really technical concepts are starting to click for them. And so we're really happy to hear that, because that's really what we set out to do, is try to simplify some of these concepts and make them more understandable for the layperson. So from our perspective, I think if we're able to impart any information and help people understand even a little bit more than they did before, this process has been a huge success.
Given that your research has received such positive feedback, I'm wondering if you can share how you hope it will be used, and what is your hope for research in the area of crypto assets in general in the future?
Well, we hope that our research will help educate individuals in the valuation and business communities with respect to this new asset class. And we also hope that it will help close the knowledge gap between the small group of early adopters and the wider public.
I think more generally, we also hope that it stimulates innovative thinking in Canada, particularly around the discussion of blockchain and crypto assets, and helps position Canada as a thought leader in this emerging space.
On behalf of CBD Institute, I'd like to firstly thank you for your innovative and thought-provoking research, and secondly for sharing your thoughts on your research with us today.